Hi, this is Ashley you once again, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been a week off for European football. There was no European football last week, and once again we're back for the second legs of the Champions League last 16 ties and the first legs of the Europa League last 16 ties as well. I'll go through each and every single tie that's happening this week and giving you my predictions for each and every single game that happened this week. So first off, on Tuesday night we have the second legs of the Champions League last 16. The first four ties will be played this week to determine the first four quarter-finalists. And on Tuesday night, first up, it's Juventus against Porto at the Allianz Stadium in Turin. Porto surprisingly hold the advantage, having won 2-1 in the first leg in Portugal, but Juventus still do have that crucial away goal that they scored late on. If it ended up being 2-0, then it might have been a much more difficult task for them to turn this tie around, but at 2-1 they'll fancy their chances of getting through against what is arguably the weakest team left in this season's competition. Porto, pretty decent campaign so far in this season's Champions League, but domestically they've not really hit the heights of previous years. 10 points behind Sporting Lisbon. Looks like they're not going to win the title this season. And perhaps they can focus their efforts on trying to make a deep run in this season's Champions League. Even though this is not the same Juve of old, they've still got Cristiano Ronaldo. And if Porto can successfully defend that first leg advantage, then it would still be a major shock for them to go through to the last eight. So all eyes will be on Turin to see if Ronaldo can inspire his side into the last eight. Juventus haven't particularly been great in Serie A this season. They've drawn a lot of games and lost quite a few as well. And they're some way behind in leaders Inter Milan in the title race, and you feel that if they have to have any chance of having a successful season, then either winning the Serie A title or winning the Champions League, which has been their aim for quite a while, would salvage what has been quite a mixed season for them so far. They're not one of the favourites to win this season's competition, given they're still in transition, but I still expect them to get past this Porto side. So I'm actually going to go for a 3-1 Juventus win, which would take them through 4-3 on aggregate. And then in the other tie to be played on Tuesday night, Dortmund host Sevilla at the Westfalenstadion, an empty Westfalenstadion that is. The German side have a 3-2 advantage from the first leg, which was also quite a bit of a shock given the form of the two sides heading into that first leg. Dortmund was struggling in the Bundesliga whilst Sevilla were flying high in La Liga, but since that first leg, Dortmund have started to pick up form. I know they lost 4-2 at the weekend against Bayern in the Klassiker, but it was against Bayern Munich, who are arguably the best team in Europe at the moment, and so it's no real shame for them to lose in that respect, but they'll feel that they should have more than enough to see off Sevilla in this second leg. I know Sevilla will have to chase the tie, but that could play very much into Dortmund's hands, and you feel that with Haaland and the likes of Haaland and Sancho up top, that they could really take this tie away from Sevilla. The Spanish side haven't really been great of late. They've lost their last two games in La Liga, but they're still surrendered a 2-0 lead to lose to Barcelona in the Copa del Rey as well, so it's not been a great few weeks for them, but they'll still feel confident of turning this tie around against Dortmund's side, who have not been as great as they should have been this season. They're down in 6th in the Bundesliga, and you feel that for them, any chance of getting back into the Champions League next season and keeping the likes of Sancho and Haaland would mean that they have to finish in the top four or win this season's competition. I mean, the latter seems quite unlikely given the teams that are left in this season's competition. So more often than not, it looks likely they'll have to get into the Champions League for a top four finish in the Bundesliga. But as for now, I think they should get the better of Sevilla in this one. I'm not sure they'll actually win tonight because I think Sevilla will try and keep it as good a game as possible. I'm actually going to go for a draw 2-2 because I suspect both sides are vulnerable, very, very vulnerable defensively, and I expect it will be a very nervy night for Dortmund, but I still think they should go through from this one. So I'm going for a 2-2 draw, which means that Dortmund will progress on 5-4 on aggregate. And then heading into Wednesday's ties, Liverpool host Leipzig. I say host, but once again their second leg tie has been moved back to Budapest like the first leg. So effectively, both sides will have had played in the same stadium for both of their legs. So which is not what normally happens in a two-legged home and away tie. So, but Liverpool will be glad more, if anything, to have moved their second leg to Budapest, because if it was at Anfield, then I would have given Leipzig more of a chance, given how poor Liverpool have been at home in recent weeks. They've lost their last 6 at home in the Premier League, which for a side who are notoriously so strong is quite the turnaround in form, shall we say. But given the fact they have a 2-goal advantage, I mean, that could play perfectly into their hands, because that means that Leipzig will have to go for it. They'll have to commit men forward as the game 90 minutes wears on, and that could leave huge gaps at the back for Liverpool to exploit, with the likes of Salah, Mane and Firmino up top to capitalise on. So it'll be interesting to see how Leipzig approach this one, given they have to chase the tie. And I think they could potentially get picked off on a break. So I still think Liverpool will go through from this one, and actually quite comfortably as well, which should provide some respite for what has been a very difficult year for them so far. I mean, they could still get into next season's Champions League through winning this season's competition, but given how much they've suffered from injuries to key players like Van Dijk and now Jordan Henderson, it looks very unlikely. And their form in the Premier League means it's going to be very difficult for them to get finish in the top 4 of the Premier League as well. So progress in this competition could be handy for Liverpool, and I think they'll get the job done here on Wednesday night, given the tie's not at Anfield. So I'm actually going to go for a very comfortable 3-1 Liverpool win in this one. And then, which should mean they progress 5-1 on aggregate. And then the final tie of the week sees Paris Saint-Germain host Barcelona. PSG look like they have one foot in the last state of this season's competition, having won 4-1 in the first leg at the Camp Nou, with Mbappe scoring a hat-trick. I mean, Barcelona are not the same as they were as of yesteryear, but this is still Barcelona, still not good enough for them to lose by that many at home. And even though Messi could spark some sort of comeback, the others around him haven't really been as much of a supporting cast to him. So even if Messi does everything he could to get them back into this tie, it's still very much Paris Saint-Germain's to lose. And even though they've had those nightmares in the past where they've thrown away commanding leads such as the one against Manchester United a few years back, and that 6-1 humiliation at Barcelona a few years before that as well. So they've got that history, but it looks highly unlikely that Barcelona, in the current state they are in, that they'll pull this one back. So I'm actually going to go for Paris Saint-Germain to win the second leg as well, not by much as in the first leg. So I think it'll be a tight contest, given the fact that Barcelona will want to salvage some bit of pride and not be on the receiving end on some sort of battering. So I think it'll be tight, but I think Paris Saint-Germain will edge this one. So I'm going for a 2-1 Paris Saint-Germain win. And then moving on to Thursday night, it's the first legs of the last 16 ties of the UEFA Europa League. 16 teams still hoping to reach the final in Gdansk in a few months' time, and they start their quest for glory in the last 16 first legs. There are 4 early kickoffs which I'll take you through now. One of them is the huge tie between Manchester United and AC Milan, 2 former European champions going head to head in the UEFA Europa League. And both sides, well, even though they're on course to qualify for next season's Champions League, both of them in their domestic leagues, you still feel that for them to have successful seasons, they really need to win a trophy or two. United are way behind Manchester City in the Premier League despite beating them at the weekend. Whilst for Milan, I mean, they've been top of Serie A for the majority of the season, but in the last few weeks they seem to have hit a dip in form which has allowed Inter Milan to open up quite a bit of a gap at the top of Serie A. So it'll be interesting to see how they approach this tie, given they're away from home first, but they would like to think that they could target scoring an away goal or two just to give themselves a chance heading into the second leg at the San Siro. But this is not the AC Milan of old. They're still trying to work their way back towards being the club they were when they had won all those European trophies, all those titles. And it's the same for Manchester United. I mean, they're way behind. As I said, they're way behind City in the Premier League, which would suggest that they should prioritise this competition to try and salvage what has been a desperately disappointing season by their standards. I know they would have been happy finishing in second place, but to be that far behind Manchester City for a club of their size is simply not good enough, and they'll be targeting trying to get some sort of advantage heading into the second leg of the San Siro. And given the quality they've got up top, I think they should have too much for Milan in this first leg. I think Milan will still have enough to score an away goal or two, given United's defensive vulnerabilities that still persist within their side. So I think United will win, but Milan will get some sort of foothold in this tie. So I'm going for a United 3-1 win. And then in one of the other ties, Dynamo Kyiv face Villarreal in Kyiv. Dynamo did well to progress from their last 32 tie against Club Brugge, whilst Villarreal comfortably disposed of RB Salzburg. And even though the Spanish side have not been in great form of late in La Liga, I don't think they've won any of their last 6 or 7 games. They'll still be firm favourites to get the better of the Ukrainian side, given their superior quality under Unai Emery, who, despite their domestic travails, has got experience of winning this competition, having won it 3 times with Sevilla, and he got Arsenal to the final as well. So stats really point towards a Villarreal win, but don't rule out Dynamo Kyiv, who are having a decent season in the league. Top of their league ahead of Shakhtar Donetsk and on course to win their first league title for a few years. So they're having a decent season, and they'll be looking to try and continue that momentum into this tie with Villarreal. But I think that Villarreal will have enough to get some sort of result in Kyiv, which should give them the advantage heading into the return at their stadium. So I'm actually going to go for a draw in this one. So it's a 1-1 draw for me, the game between Kyiv and Villarreal. And then Ajax face Young Boys in another of the early ties. Ajax will be huge favourites given their superior European pedigree over the Swiss side, But as we saw in the last round when Young Boys faced Leverkusen, that they shouldn't be ruled out to produce a surprise in this tie. But ever since they've knocked out Leverkusen, Young Boys' form in the league has stalled a bit. They've drawn their last 3 games, whilst Ajax keep winning in the Eredivisie to close in on the title as well. So stats really point towards an Ajax victory in this tie, but don't be surprised if Young Boys produce some sort of shock in this one. So I'm going to go for an Ajax victory, and I think they could do it without conceding, given that Young Boys are quite limited up top. So even though they did put 6 past Leverkusen, but the German side were pretty poor defensively. So I'm actually going to go for an Ajax 2-0 win, which should put them in control of this tie to get through to the last 8. And then the final tie of the early kickoffs is Slavia Prague against Rangers. Both sides are unbeaten domestically, and Rangers secured the Scottish Premiership title at the weekend after Celtic drew. And you feel that they could be in a bit of a I wouldn't say a drunken state from celebrating their title, but it'll be interesting to see how they approach this one. Could they make progress through to the last 8? They could, but Slavia Prague are a very difficult proposition, especially as we saw in the last round when they comfortably dispatched of Leicester City. I think Rangers could get something in Prague, but regardless, I mean, Slavia will know that any sort of result heading into the second leg at Ibrox, and they'll be confident of getting the job done. And it'll be interesting to see how Gerrard and his team approach this one. I mean, will they go all out to try to score an away goal or 2 just to give themselves an edge, or will they try and keep it tight and maybe hang on for a 0-0, which, even though it's a decent result, there's no away goal to it, which could hand the advantage to Slavia Prague. And they've been very strong defensively, the Czech side. So it's a toss of a coin game, this one. But I'm actually going to go. I think Rangers will have enough to get some sort of result in Prague, which should set the tie up nicely for the second leg at Ibrox next week. So I'm going for a 1-1 draw in this one. And then moving on to the later kickoffs, Arsenal face Olympiakos, the team who knocked them out of the competition in the last 32 stage last season. So there's revenge for the Gunners, and the first leg will be at the stadium where they played the second leg of their last 32 tie against Benfica. So they'll be familiar with those surroundings. But Olympiakos are no marks. I mean, particularly at their ground. I mean, they did well to knock out a very good PSV side, and they'll be confident of causing Arsenal a lot of problems given Gunners' domestic woes. I mean, they're in mid-table still despite picking up that run of form from Christmas till now, but they haven't really kicked on Arsenal as much as they would like and try and move themselves up the table. So all the focus for them is trying to win this season's Europa League. Otherwise, it's another season without Champions League football for them, which financially would be an absolute disaster. So it'll be interesting to see how they approach this first leg, but you'd like to think they'll try and score an away goal or 2. But Olympiakos will feel that they can get some sort of result to take into the second leg at Emirates as well. So I'm actually going to go for another 1-1 draw in this one, which should set the tie up nicely in North London next week. And then Arsenal's North London rivals are Spurs, host Dynamo Zagreb at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. When the draw was made, it was actually Dynamo Zagreb who were paired out first, who were picked out first of the pair. But of course, given the fact that Arsenal and Tottenham can't play their ties in the same city on the same night, the order of their legs was reversed. So that's why Tottenham have to play the first leg at home. and you feel that could really give them the opportunity to take a big step towards the last eight. Spurs have been very strong at home in this season's competition. I don't think they've conceded, and but so have Dynamo Zagreb. They've been very strong in this competition as well. Still unbeaten, won their last six in this competition. So Spurs will have to be wary. But given the fact that Spurs have got such superior quality and Champions League experience as well as Europa League experience, you feel that they are the favourites to get through this tie. And I think they'll take a giant step towards the last eight as well. So I'm going for a 3-0 Tottenham win. And then another juicy tie to look out is Roma against Shakhtar Donetsk. As I said in the draw, I did predict Shakhtar Donetsk to win this one, but it's going to be very tight, this one, given the two sides are evenly matched. Shakhtar are second in the Ukrainian league, whilst Roma are fourth in Serie A. And it'll be interesting to see how both sides approach this tie. I mean, Shakhtar still hopeful of chasing down Kyiv for the Ukrainian title, but will they be looking to make a deep run in this competition? I think they could. They reached the semi-finals last season before being dispatched by Inter Milan, and they'll be looking to do something similar, if not better, this season. And given their performances in the Champions League group stage, where they beat Real Madrid home and away, they should be confident of overcoming a Roma side who have been a bit patchy domestically, to say the least. But in Europe, they've been a lot better, comfortably dispatched of a good Braga side in the last round, and it'll be interesting to see how they approach this one as well. I mean, will they go on the attack to try and gain some sort of advantage, or will they try and sit in just to not concede an away goal to the side from Ukraine? So be interesting to see how this one plays out. But I'm actually going to go for a Roma win, but not by much, because I still feel that Shakhtar will have enough in attack to score an away goal or two. So I'm actually going to go for a 3-2 Roma win. And then the final tie of the round is a tie between two sides who weren't really expected to get this far in this season's competition, Granada and Molde. It's a real opportunity for one of these two unfancied teams to make a deep run in the competition. Granada are the slight favourites given the fact they beat Napoli in the last round, who are a very good team, but don't rule out Molde, who'd surprised Hoffenheim in the same round as well, and they'll feel they'll be capable of causing an upset against the Granada side, who haven't been great in La Liga. I think they're in 10th place in La Liga at the minute, which, given their form in Europe, it's not great, to say the least. So maybe there's an opportunity for Molde to capitalise on Granada's defensive vulnerabilities, but the Spanish side will be confident of gaining some sort of advantage heading into the second leg in Norway, and I think they'll do just that. I mean, the way they defeated Napoli in the last round was quite impressive as well. So they'll be looking to gain some sort of an advantage heading into that second leg, and I think they will. Not by much, because I think that Molde would like to keep things tight and interesting heading into the second leg, but enough to think that Granada should take a big step towards the last eight as well. So I'm going for a 2-0 Granada win. And so that's it for my predictions for this week's European ties. I mean, it's the second legs of the last 16 ties of the Champions League and the first legs of the last 16 ties of the Europa League, and it's getting close towards the latter stages of both competitions. By the end of next week, we should find out the quarter-finalists of both competitions, and it'll be interesting to see who faces who in that stage as well. So it's getting towards the crunch end of the European season, and it'll be interesting to see which teams are make progress in both competitions as well to keep their aspirations on track, and which teams will go out and have to focus on domestic football for the rest of the season. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what this week and next week holds as well, and I hope you two are as well, and hopefully I'll have my review at the end of this week to dissect what has happened this week in Europe and then look ahead to next week as well. So hope you enjoyed this video as always. Hope you're enjoying watching my content, and I look forward to seeing you all soon as always. I'm out of here.